Let's talk some sports, baby.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us tonight. As a reminder to our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. Head on over, and if you like what you hear, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, man? Quick programming note. Jay is going to be absent for a little while. He's got some personal stuff going on, so we're taking a bit of a leave of absence. So y'all might be stuck with just me and Drink for a little while. How's it going?
Hey, man, it's going, man. I just want, before we off in here, I want to say, hey, shouts out. We're going to miss Jay. He's still part of the team and everything. And, when the time is right, we're going to get back in the lab and we're going to get to cooking. But you know what it is. Let's talk some sports, baby. You know what it is. Go ahead and pull up a seat because we got to speak. Cody, what's on the menu today, baby?
Oh, man, we got episode 22 up. We got Giannis getting the bag. LSU shocked the college football world. And we're going to check in on your college football playoff rankings as well here shortly. Let's go ahead and kick it off tonight with some Monday Night Football action between the Ravens and the Browns. This game carried a lot of hype into it. It's the 7-5 Ravens. They had to win to keep their playoff hopes alive, while the 9-3 Browns were looking to catch the Steelers in the AFC North. The 47-42 shootout saw the Ravens emerge victorious in what was likely a game of the year candidate so far. Defending MVP Lamar Jackson tallied up 287 total yards and 3 touchdowns, making big plays when he had to, even after leaving the game for cramps late in the fourth quarter. Baker Mayfield was great too, outside of a pick six, did throw for 343 yards and 2 touchdowns. The win does keep Baltimore's playoff hopes alive, and it makes it harder for the Browns to win the North. Drink, what'd you take away from this game?
Well, one of the things I took away from you said something about cramps, right? Well, let's talk about the cramps a little bit because I heard one Lamar Jackson actually said, hey, I didn't want to pull a Paul Pierce back there and not come back out because of the cramps. So I found that to be pretty humorous. They took a shot at Paul Pierce like that. Monday Night Football, you said it. Listen, this was a top 3, if not the best Monday Night Football game of the year. Very competitive. And this is why the NFL goes out and scheduled Monday nights and Thursday night games like they do to keep them with divisional fire, because we all know this. When you get into November, December, and January, you get those hard-nosed division games to end the season, and then you roll into that playoff, and you know what time it is when the money on the line. So I thought that game, it was some money on the line. Like, they both played like it was something on the line. Let's start off. I start off with the unfortunate losers of the game, the Browns. Listen, Nick Chubb, I seen this stat, right? Nick Chubb started running the ball. This dude had like 800 rushing yards this year, and he missed 4 games. And so I got to thinking, like, man, Chubb is kind of underrated as a running back because I don't hear people talk about, when we talk about top 5 running backs, Chubb is not a name I hear a lot. You hear Henry, you hear McCaffrey, you hear Kamara, you hear
Dalvin Cook this year.
Dalvin Cook. You hear these names. But, a name we don't hear a lot is Chubb, and I think we should hear more of them because when I seen that guy's running the ball. Oh, and if you didn't see the game, he was running it last night as well. Nick Chubb, and here's the deal. For all the admirations and, the congratulations we give the Browns this year for getting over the snide and actually looking like a winning football franchise, we know that none of this happens if you don't put a complimentary run game behind Baker Mayfield. Last night, Baker Mayfield looked about as comfortable as he looked all season last night when he was able to hand that ball off to Chubb, hand it off to Hunt, and them boys was doing what they had to do, getting between the tackles, hitting the edges, I mean, Chubb was just phenomenal. I mean, I became a Chubb fan last night. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And then Baker Mayfield was able to make the throws to Jarvis Landry. And did I say Jarvis Landry? Let's talk about Jarvis Landry a little bit. Did you seen that flea flicker that they had? Or maybe like listen.
They throw those in almost every game. They love that kind of stuff,
right?
Landry.
But this is what I liked about it, right? They do it so much that Jarvis Landry is either he's getting some type of education on how to be a quarterback, or he's just been doing this for so long, he just know what to do. I see him hanging out to the very last moment, take the hit, get that thing out there to Nick Chubb. I said, yo, look at Landry out there looking like a young QB. Don't do it too much, though. We need the hands, not the arm. But I thought that was beautiful. I just like the looseness. Ever since Kevin Stefanski came over to this team looks a lot more loose. They look a lot more ready to play. And listen, for what most people got to say, hey, the Browns, yeah, they beat up on inferior teams, but when it comes to playing a playoff team, what do they look like? Listen, the Ravens probably going to be a playoff team. We've seen them win. I'm not saying Ravens like a powerhouse or anything, but they are a playoff team. So you got to take the stats how you take them. Don't say they look bad against every playoff team, then they play a playoff team. It's the Ravens. They're probably going to be a 6 or 7 seed. It doesn't matter. They're a playoff team. So just leave it at that. All right, cool. Boom. So the run game last night, Myles Garrett was doing this thing. I didn't think the Cleveland defense was overly impressive, but we have to take this on with a comma of last night was, the last year version of the Ravens. And that version of the Ravens is pretty damn hard to defend. When you got Lamar Jackson running in between them tackles and Andrews streaking down the field, and listen, it could have been worse for the Browns too, because you had some wide receivers out there trying to catch the ball with their elbows instead of their hands. If they was actually trying to do legitimate catching out there, this could have got a little worse. Lamar Jackson like, what's going – Hollywood, what you doing for me, man? What we doing? But Lamar Jackson overthrew some balls as well. So, the blame can go all the way around. But with that said, it was still a good game. Now, I took the Ravens in this game. And the reason I took the Ravens is because I had the feeling that John Harbaugh is about to go back to what got him here. They tried this experiment making Lamar Jackson a pocket quarterback this year. And what do you have to show for it? You're almost going to miss the playoffs. And I understand if you want to say, hey, look here, Nate, listen to this. So if we get into the playoffs, that offense is not going to work. True. But, hell, you got to make it to the playoffs first. And the offense is going to at least get you to the playoffs. You just got to figure out how to make it work in the playoffs. But what you was running before what you was running last night, that's not even going to get you to the playoffs, let alone to a ring. You got to let Lamar Jackson do what he do. I got it. Everybody don't have to be Tom Brady in the pocket. Everybody can't be Russell Wilson in the pocket. Everybody can't, Patrick Mahomes. Sometimes different players just bring different skill sets, and that's Lamar Jackson. He is undeniably the best running quarterback in the NFL, bar none. When he gets loose, good luck, because he looks like a wide receiver / running back out there in the open. And that works. We seen it last night. Yep. Cleveland could not stop him on the ground to save their life. And then what happens? So you so worried about Lamar Jackson? Here come J.K. Dobbins. Here come Gus Edwards. Mark Ingram a little bit. I don't know what's really going on with Mark Ingram. But you start springing in these heavy hitters. Then Mark Andrews get behind you. And now he started catching. Whenever Hollywood feel like catching the ball, then he started catching it. So, listen, that offense, I'm a personal believer. They might need to keep it that way, and John Harbaugh just going to and the offense coordinator going to have to tweak some things, do something to where it can work in the postseason. But that offense was downright electric. Cleveland, I'm still not betting on you quite yet, but you showed me something last night. I ain't mad at it. Take the brown paper bags offense. It was a good Monday night football game. That was my thoughts, and I hope they continue to close out the season with Monday night football games like that.
Yeah, I definitely hope we get more of these. This was my God, what a great game. I'd say I'll start again with like you did with the Browns. I watch a team like the Browns. I know all about moral victories and getting patted on the head and saying, "Oh, well, that was a really good game. You really tried your best." Man, it still burns me up, man. Well, they're out there playing hard, and that's really all that matters. No, it doesn't. They're 1-15. It don't matter. I know when you talk about moral victories in the NFL, that don't really go. You say that crap for college. You go in there and only lose by 4 touchdowns to Alabama instead of 7. That's when you pull out the moral victories. But really, last night, I think that this team just proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're going to be a legitimate contender. Not maybe for a Super Bowl this year, but they are a team that can beat anybody any given week, and they are figuring this out. Because if we go back on the storylines again, like you said, we talked about the Browns earlier in the season. They started off 5-2, and we thought, well, that's great. But then they had the 2 losses. They had a 38-6 loss to the Ravens week 1, and they had a 38-7 loss to the Steelers, who we still weren't sure about at that point. But now in retrospect, obviously, 11-2, they're still pretty good. So you start to think, okay, well, they can't beat any playoff teams, and they had to stumble against the Raiders. They mostly beat up on the riffraff. But then last week they destroyed the Titans. I know that score says 41-35, but that score was 38-7 in the time that mattered. I mean, they mutilated the Titans, and the Titans are a good football team. I mean, they really are. And they come out here and play the Ravens down to the wire. And again, the Ravens had everything to play for. I mean, their season was on the line. If you look at the AFC playoff race, the Ravens could not lose this game. They would be almost sunk if they did not win this game. I mean, they're basically competing with Miami, and even with the win, they're not in the playoffs right now. They are the 8th seed, but it keeps them neck and neck. And the Browns had a lot to play for, but not as much as the Ravens. I mean, this is a team with the reigning MVP that was 14-2 last year. They've had a rough season. The Ravens have had some injuries. Again, you talk about how they've had to change up the offense a little bit. They were racked by COVID, I think, twice now, in the season. I mean, they've had a lot to deal with. If you look at who the Ravens have lost to, I mean, they've lost to the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Patriots, the Titans, and the Steelers. I mean, there's not a lot of shame in that besides maybe the Patriots game. But you're talking about a team that is very resilient, and they have that championship DNA. We see teams that just have that it factor of, we're going to figure out how to win this game no matter what. So the Browns had a lot against them. And I think in the third quarter, when they were down 2 touchdowns, it was easy to just quit. It really was. It would have been easy for the Browns. They would have disassembled like they would have had every other time in the last 20 years. The tires would have fell off. They'd been fighting each other on the sidelines. Odell would have been throwing goalpost nets and whatever else. Like, how it always happens, but they didn't do that.
Yep.
Rallied, and they played that to the very last possession. So it's a very important game. As far as some of the notes of the game itself, I thought Mayfield was really good outside of obviously the pick 6, which was bad. I don't think he made a horrible read. Just the read he made, he could have zipped it past the defender. He just didn't make a good throw. The throw was not where it needed to be. It needed to be much more outside. I think the Browns defense severely misses Joe Schobert. I know this isn't the most flashy thing in the world, but they really seem in the middle of that defense to be lacking a little bit. A lot of those runs were getting to the second and third level of the defense. They were missing some tackles. It looks like Myles Garrett was somewhat hampered out there. He didn't look like himself, and he needs to be himself for that defense to really function. But overall, I think that the offense, there's a lot to like. I mean, Baker Mayfield in the second half, he led drives of 75 yards, and 70 yards. I mean, he had 3 11 or 12 play drives where they did pretty much whatever they wanted. This Ravens defense is not bad. I mean, they're a very good defense. And on the Ravens side of things, I think one thing you're concerned about now is the injuries. I think Marcus Peters got hurt. Another corner got hurt. I forget his name, but they had 2 major corner injuries. And can I take a second to also highlight what is up with Unique Ngakoue? He was there last night. I mean, he was chasing Baker around some. But let me read you these stats real quick. Since the Ravens have traded for him, in Minnesota, in 6 games played, he had 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 6 tackles for loss, and 12 total tackles. Okay, and with the Ravens, he has 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 tackle for loss, and 6 total tackles in 7 games. I mean, the production has fell off a cliff. And you think on a better team, he'd be better off. But I'm not sure what's up with that, but he might be, playing himself right out of the contract he's been searching for so long. We'll see. But, but I think, again, with the Ravens, they're getting their footing. They really are. They're going back, you said, they're going back to what works. They're getting their footing. The COVID stuff came and gone. They weathered that storm. Their last 3 games are the Jaguars, the Giants, and the Bengals. They by far have the easiest path of the last 3 teams remaining. The Dolphins, who they'll be primary competing with for that last seed in the playoffs. Remember, it's 7 teams this year. Dolphins have the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Browns. the Bills is the last game of their season. So not going to
That's
be easy.
even worse.
Yeah, that's even worse, right? And the Browns are going to lock this up. They're going to be definitely the highest wild card seed. It looks like they have the Giants, the Jets, and the Steelers, and I think that Steelers game will be interesting because I don't know if the Steelers will really play it that hard. Because it looks like the Chiefs now are probably going to lock up that 1 seed. And remember, this year the 2 seed is not a bye. You still have to play if you're the 2 seed. So maybe the Steelers rest some guys. Maybe it's not a big deal. But if the Steelers bring the guns out for that game, that I think is really going to tell us what the Browns have. If they're going to be a team that really, really is a contender or if they're just kind of a mirage. But I think the last 2 weeks have showed us that the Browns are not the Browns of yesteryear, and they're definitely not the Browns of the last 20 years. And this team is, I think, finally turning a corner, and Baker Mayfield's playing better football. And I think as long as Baker Mayfield's playing good football and this team, the glue kind of stays together, they're a good team. They're going to be a contender, and they're going to be in the mix.
Shout out to Kevin Stefanski out there, looking like a grown man, getting these boys ready to play.
Put an adult in the room, and look what happens.